If there's one critique of the media from the right that I do agree with, is the moralizing nature. Like, there is no condescension and moralizing on Fox. It's people on a couch asking questions. Are you worried about how many terrorists are coming in on the border? Do you ever worry about that? Whereas if you turn on MSE sometimes, you're like, it's like birds descending, you know, at sea on a tuna boat going, that's factually incorrect. Incorrect. Not correct. Incorrect. And you're just like, I can't listen to this.
You're all acting like the tariff regime is a tried and true remedy. Oh, of course, this is the medicine that's always prescribed. Except the last time it was tried 100 years ago, we had a Great Depression.
Jon Stewart has once again set his sights on MSNBC, this time tearing into the network for its relentless attacks on Donald Trump. And honestly, that's a bit surprising coming from Stewart, who built his career roasting Trump. But hey, it's refreshing to see even some of Trump's fiercest critics calling out the double standards on their own side. And they're not holding back. Stewart's takedown was so savage it practically broke the internet. Of course, we've got all the receipts right here. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss epic moments like this.
First law of Trumpodynamics. Every action is met with a very not equal overreaction.
These pardons are sick. They are offensive. They are un-American.
This is one of the most egregious, despicable acts in American history.
This is textbook authoritarian takeover 101.
You know, I should have taken that class. And not majored in submissive liberal crying 101.
Trump derangement syndrome is hitting almost cartoonish levels. And even liberals like Jon Stewart are starting to sound the alarm. The lies, the scripted outrage, the shamelessly twisted narratives, it's all spiraling out of control. Stewart has had enough. At the center of this media circus is MSNBC, a network practically engineered to take down Trump and usher in the era of performative wokeness. But here's the twist. Jon Stewart and a growing number of his ideological peers aren't playing along anymore. They're breaking ranks, calling out the hypocrisy and exposing the left's media machine for what it really is, a propaganda engine disguised as journalism. This isn't about defending Trump, it's about defending truth. And Stewart is surprisingly becoming an unlikely voice of reason in a landscape gone mad.
You want to make America great again, you can't skimp on the details.
President Trump says he's going to reverse Joe Biden's mandate to phase out plastic straws, saying, enjoy your next drink without a straw that disgustingly dissolves in your mouth.
Okay, he's right on this one. He is right on this one. Those straws are f***ing terrible. Objectively terrible. I'm supposed to have some weird tissue paper dissolve in my mouth just because turtles can't figure out straws aren't food? No. Don't eat the tubes, you stupid turtles. So Trump is making America great again by taking us back to 2016. But obviously, if we're going to make America great again, we can't stop in 2016. We got to keep pushing to that place when America was truly great.
This is exactly what I've been saying. Straight-up journalism without bias is becoming a rare gem. Let's be real. Biden's environmental policies aren't just flawed. They're borderline absurd. These policies deserve to be questioned, mocked, and dissected. But will MSNBC or CNN call him out? Of course not. You could lay all the flaws out for them, and they'd still spin it as a major victory. It's like they have an allergy to accountability whenever the left is in power. This isn't journalism anymore. It's PR with a teleprompter. And the American people are finally starting to see right through it.
If there's one critique of the media from the right that I do agree with, is the moralizing nature. Like, there is no condescension and moralizing on Fox. It's people on a couch asking questions. Are you worried about how many terrorists are coming in on the border? Do you ever worry about that? Whereas if you turn on MSE sometimes, you're like, it's like birds descending, at sea on a tuna boat going, "That's factually incorrect. Incorrect. Not correct. Incorrect." And you're just like, I can't listen to this.
Or MSNBC runs a clear anti-Trump, anti-Republican agenda. Every word from Trump or his allies gets dissected, fact-checked, and blown out of proportion. Minor slip-ups become headline scandals. But where was that energy when Biden was in office? Suddenly, fact-checking vanished, gaffes were ignored, and broken promises got spun as evolving policy. Instead of holding the administration accountable, they coddled it with soft coverage and carefully crafted narratives that shielded Biden from criticism. And when MSNBC spots even a hint of inconsistency from the right, they don't just report, they sensationalize it with nonstop coverage. This isn't journalism, it's partisan theater. This glaring double standard doesn't just erode trust, it reveals the media's true loyalties, and viewers are waking up to it.
I think what the media has done over the last 10 years is cry wolf, to the point where they numbed everybody. It was an anesthetic. And it got to where, what was the thing they litigated throughout this campaign? He's a fascist, he's a terrible person. Democracy is on the ballot. Guess what lost at the ballot? If you told us democracy is on the ballot, well, democracy got its ass kicked by a majority vote. So I'm very cautious about when to know, like, yeah, hopefully I won't do it the night after Kristallnacht. I'll get it, like, but it's like, when do you put your dog down? Like, it's one of those things, like, you're not quite sure. But I do understand how annoying that is.
Or another truth bomb from comedian Jon Stewart drops, and the media flinches. Here's the deal. When networks like MSNBC and CNN keep crying wolf without any real threat, people eventually tune out. And honestly, who can blame them? It's all panic, no substance. All outrage, no facts. No wonder their ratings are tanking. Viewers are sick of being lied to, gaslit, and manipulated by so-called journalists who worship their political bias like gospel. That's why more Americans are ditching legacy media and turning to independent platforms for real reporting, without the spin and condescension. The mainstream media's lies aren't just frustrating, they're nauseating. Public trust is gone. Unless these outlets do a hard 180, they're headed straight for irrelevance. You can only push propaganda for so long before people start waking up. And that wake-up call is already ringing loud.
Inspiring words for us. Mr. President.
History is literally watching us now. So let's preserve this secret place for our time and forever, for the benefit of all humanity. Thank you very, very much.
Maybe this is how we should do the transfer of power. The winner moves into the White House, and the incumbent just wanders off into the jungle so that his nutrients may be returned to the soil.
Just like Bill Maher, Jon Stewart isn't afraid to take shots at President Biden, and that's exactly what real comedians do. They speak the truth and use comedy as a scalpel to cut through the noise. Stewart doesn't tiptoe around party lines or bow to political correctness. He calls it like he sees it. That's what makes him stand out in today's echo chamber media landscape. His unapologetic takes have earned him both devoted fans and vocal critics, but he doesn't care. Stewart isn't playing for applause from either side. He's here to challenge narratives, expose hypocrisy, and say what the approved media won't touch with a 10-foot pole. Meanwhile, the woke media bends over backwards to excuse every Biden gaffe, whether he's rambling off script or forgetting names mid-sentence. Instead of holding power accountable, they coddle it. Stewart speaks his mind, no filter, no spin, and that's why his voice is louder than ever. Of course, the Democrats don't take criticism lightly, and they came after Stewart with guns blazing.
Quite frankly, the response to the first show last Monday was universally glowing.
Jon Stewart is facing massive backlash from Democrats over his comments about Joe Biden. Oberman tweeted, "Well, after 9 years away, there's nothing else to say to the both side is fraud Jon Stewart bashing Biden except please make it another 9 years." Christy Jackson tweeted, "Sorry, but I won't be watching you either."
Okay. Maybe not universal. But that was on Twitter. Everything on Twitter gets a backlash. I've seen Twitter tell labradoodles to go themselves. Labradoodles.
The left loves to brand itself as the champion of democracy and free speech. But the moment someone steps out of line, they're the first to silence dissent. It's a classic double standard. On paper, they preach inclusivity and open dialogue, but in practice, that inclusivity only extends to those who echo their talking points. Step outside that ideological bubble, and suddenly you're the enemy. That's why people like Jon Stewart, once hailed as a progressive icon, are now constantly targeted by the very crowd that once cheered them on. Why? Because he dares to question the woke orthodoxy, call out absurdities, contradictions, and hypocrisy. For that, they label him a traitor. The message is clear. Toe the line or face the backlash. But Stewart refuses to fall in line, and that's what makes him dangerous to both sides. He's not playing the partisan game, he's calling it out. In a time when honest voices are silenced for not parroting the correct opinions, that kind of integrity is rare and desperately needed. Stewart is made of steel, and he didn't hold back, going after Biden even harder.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
How did Biden do not talking?
Nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing.
Not great. Oh shit, we're back, baby! Abortion! A to the B to the O to the R to the T to the repeal of Roe v. Wade. That is Trump's weakest issue.
Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral.
Did you just immigration abortion?
Jon Stewart has been one of the rare liberals willing to call out President Biden's ineptitude without hesitation. While much of the mainstream left circled the wagons to protect Biden at all costs, Stewart broke ranks, mocking the president's endless gaffes, contradictions, and baffling public appearances. Unsurprisingly, the Democrats came after him, unleashing the outrage machine and accusing Stewart of betrayal, claiming he was handing ammo to the opposition. But Stewart didn't flinch, apologize, or back down. Unlike many in his camp, he still values honesty over blind allegiance. He understands comedy isn't about protecting power, it's about speaking truth to it. And if that means calling out the flaws of a president he once supported, so be it. Stewart's commitment to intellectual honesty, even at the expense of his popularity on the left, is what sets him apart from today's echo chamber pundits posing as comedians. It's risky, it's bold, and it's why his voice still matters.
For some reason, there is a persistent fiction within the Democratic Party that if they just hang out with Republicans in the gym or wait out Trump's popularity or give them concessions on a continuing resolution they said would harm the country, that Republicans will finally see the light. The Democrats will be rewarded with productive bipartisanship, or, as they put it,
this fever will break. All this excitement about Donald Trump, it's going to break.
So it is like a cult. The fever will break.
Is this the night the fever will break?
A chance to break the fever.
I believe at some point soon the fever will break.
I think you're going to see the fever break.
President Obama saying, quote, "Now I believe when we're successful in this election that the fever may break."
If someone's been running a fever since the aughts, that's not a fever. That is their default resting temperature.
The truth is, until Democrats move past their obsession with woke ideology, This so-called Trump fever isn't going anywhere. In fact, it's only gaining steam. The more the left doubles down on identity politics, censorship, and performative virtue signaling, the more everyday Americans feel alienated and gravitate towards someone who speaks plainly and unapologetically. People aren't drawn to Trump out of blind loyalty. It's because his policies, love them or hate them, are grounded in common sense, border security, energy independence, and economic growth. He tackles real problems with practical, sometimes blunt solutions. In a world where everything feels over-politicized and intentionally confusing, that kind of clarity is refreshing. The longer Democrats ignore this reality, the longer Trump's appeal endures. Until the left focuses on real issues and stops catering to fringe narratives, they're just handing fuel to Trump and candidates like him. In the end, the media's bias, the left's double standards, and the Democrats' fixation on woke politics are pushing more people toward voices like Trump and even Jon Stewart. Until truth trumps narrative, the call for common sense and accountability will only grow louder, too loud for the establishment to ignore. That wraps up today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.